What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode. We've got a great episode for you guys today. Shout outs to the people in the comments that are requesting stuff that I do. I really appreciate that. I want to know what you guys like, so it's very important to me to get your comments. And I interact with everybody, so I'm really trying to learn. If you guys might have some ideas that I don't, to put on here. I've got a ton of content that I'm doing, but that's specifically what I'm interested in and what most like-minded people are interested in. But if there's something out there that I'm not doing that you want to see, just give me a shout and I'll definitely get that on there. Also, disclaimer, this is for video entertaining purposes only. Don't believe anything that I say and don't believe anything you see in these videos, but do your research. Absolutely always do your research. And we're just going over stuff that makes us understand our world a bit more or poses more questions. But, I think everybody who watches these types of channels, question everything because they understand that the indoctrination and the system we've been living under is a complete farce, So that's a big point of contention for most of us. So anyways, let's get into it. Hope you guys like it.
Something we're really interested in is buildings with subterranean spaces in them, and we'd heard that there's a great subterranean space in this property. What is this, like the 8th or 9th millionaire, billionaire we've had change their mind last minute? In the last year, reports have been coming out of America discussing New Zealand as a bolt hole in case of catastrophe. A New Yorker article said that in Silicon Valley circles, talking about buying a house in New Zealand is shorthand for apocalypse insurance. Bloomberg reported that Texan company Rising S shipped several thousand square foot deluxe survival bunkers to New Zealand. Units they say could be buried in secret and are only locatable with a GPS coordinate. That's why we're here in Queenstown. This is the town where Peter Thiel and many other financial giants have their bolt holes. If they've built survival bunkers here, we're going to see if we can find one.
So a big thing with that is there's a lot more to that video. I've researched a lot about that, and the horrific thing is with all of these billionaires, moving or building bunkers in New Zealand. Billionaires building bunkers in New Zealand. They've driven up the price of everything in that town that they're in. So the people that have lived there for generations can't even afford to live in that town anymore because of prices have gone, so high. And excuse me. And the worst part is that it used to have to take a lot of work to get into New Zealand, just like any other place, it usually takes some years depending on your reasoning for trying to get citizenship. But New Zealand has completely sold out. They have let these billionaires actually purchase their citizenships so that they can start building, these bunkers, which I think is really messed up. I feel sorry for the people that live there, and the New Zealand government should absolutely be ashamed of itself for allowing people to just buy, their citizenship while everyone else has to, work hard at it or have a valid reason and still work hard at it and might not even get in. It's really messed up. It's a real messed up situation.
I've been doing more research on the bunkers and I found something pretty interesting. The rumor everyone's talking about on X is that 15 billionaires have started building bunkers in the last week. Supposedly, they're all scheduled to be finished before winter of 2024. I've searched all over and I'm not sure where they're getting this information, so I can't confirm the legitimacy. But this is what I found that's pretty weird. Biden filed for a permit to build a top secret retaining wall at his Delaware property. This I can confirm the legitimacy of because I looked it up myself on the government website. But what could be so top secret about a retaining wall? There is speculation that this wall could be for the entrance of a vault or a bunker. I think the best argument for this is what Biden had to say during the time frame of this construction taking place.
I'm on vacation. I'm not. I have no home to go to. The Secret Service has torn my house up in a good way to make it secure. So I have no place to go when I come to Delaware except here right now. I'm only here for one day.
And anyone who knows about about this kind of stuff, please let us know if calling a retaining wall top secret on a permit is common. Could be nothing, I just wanted to share with you guys, but even if this is just for a plain old top secret retaining wall, I promise you Biden has a bunker somewhere.
So all the world's richest people are building underground bunkers to be able to survive the apocalypse all of a sudden, all at once. And maybe this is just the latest trend of people who have way too much money on their hands, but to be honest with you, I was way less concerned when they were shooting themselves into space or the bottom of the ocean. Reportedly, there are 15 people so far who are openly telling people about what they're doing. Imagine how many of these rich assholes are not disclosing this information. See, this is a problem for me when the richest people, the ones who are making billions of dollars by destroying this planet, are trying to find ways to survive the consequences of how they made their money. I don't like it. And 5 of the world's most wealthy men paid to have this dude, Douglas Rushkoff, come out to a remote resort to discuss with them post-apocalyptic survival. He said that they're all concerned about something they kept referring to as the event. He said that the event was a euphemism for the environmental collapse, social unrest, nuclear explosion, solar storms, unstoppable virus, or a malicious computer hack that takes down everything. Are the richest, most powerful people on the planet all conspiracy theorists, or do they know something that we don't? Let me know what you think in the comments.
What do you guys think? Personally, when billionaires start doing things like this, start making these kinds of moves, I pay attention. I completely pay attention. You know, they didn't do this at any other time, ever. So I wouldn't say it's something that they're just calling the event that's, not necessarily a specific thing. I think there's a few specific things that's going to happen. And they're wanting to get out of there and wanting to have a place to retreat to.
The rich are about to get a taste of their own medicine. Get ready for the revolution. It's coming. It's time to eat the rich. And I don't know if you heard, but billionaires are splurging on bunkers. People like Beyonce and Jay-Z. Tech billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg. And they're buying up bunkers to hide because soon society is about to collapse. And they created all of this mess going on with the economy. And it's so ridiculous. They think they can buy their way out of everything, even consequences. Take, for example, Mark. He's dropped a whopping $270 million on a secret Hawaiian hideout, complete with a massive underground bunker. And he's not the only one. There are about 700 billionaires in the USA. And the US population is about 330 million people. So good luck hiding from the angry mass of people that's about to explode. Who knows, maybe you can escape this life, but you will not be able to escape the next.
Something big. Mark Zuckerberg may be planning on his Hawaiian estate. Wired reports that Meta's founder is building a mega compound on roughly 1,400 acres of land on the island of Kauai, including an underground bunker with a concrete-filled metal door. The residence reportedly will have up to a dozen buildings with some 30 bedrooms and 30 bathrooms. The 2 main residences will be reportedly connected by a tunnel that leads to the underground shelter. Another feature, that's according to Wired, includes 11 tree houses connected by rope bridges that travel along the estate. The report says it will cost more than $270 million to build. There's already some controversy from indigenous people in the region who are upset about the disruption that this has caused. But this got me thinking about a book, a new book that's out recently by Douglas Rushkoff. It's called Survival of the Richest. He's a professor at City University of New York. He calls this nervous billionaires building bunkers. He writes that here are the wealthiest, most powerful people I've ever met, yet they feel utterly helpless to avoid the inevitable event. You know, the climate crisis or pandemic or social unrest that leads to revolution or mass unrest that renders the world unavailable for any of us.
California versus Texas.
With his dog along a nature trail. Coyote jumps out, attacks the governor's dog, then bites the governor. The governor starts to intervene but reflects upon the movie Bambi, then realizes he should stop because the coyote is only doing what is natural. He calls animal control. Animal control captures the coyote, bills the state $200, testing it for diseases, $500 for relocating it. He calls a veterinarian. The vet collects the dead dog, bills the state $200 testing it for diseases. Governor goes to the hospital, spends $3,500 getting checked for diseases from the coyote and on getting his bite wound bandaged. The running trail gets shut down for 6 months while Fish and Game conducts a $100,000 survey to make sure the area is now free of dangerous animals. The governor spends $50,000 in state funds implementing a coyote awareness program for the residents of the area. State legislature spends $2 million to study how to better treat rabies and how to permanently eradicate the disease throughout the world. The governor's security agent is fired for not stopping the attack. The state spends $150,000 to hire and train a new agent with additional special training regarding the nature of coyotes. PETA protests the coyotes' relocation, files a $5 million suit against the state. Texas. The governor of Texas is jogging with his dog along a nature trail. A coyote jumps out and attacks his dog. The governor shoots the coyote with his state-issued pistol, keeps jogging. The governor has spent 50 cents on a .45 caliber hollow point cartridge. The buzzards eat the dead coyote, and that, my friends, is why California is broke, Texas is not.
What'd you guys think of that? I like that a lot. That's pretty spot on, too. I lived in Texas for a good part of my life when I came to the U.S.
The following film shows the human energy field radiating outward from the body. It dynamically changes based on the physical conditions, the feeling states, the motivations of the person, in interaction with energy radiation from objects and living things. The existence of the human energy field, or the aura, was validated and studied by over 12 years of high-frequency recordings. This film shows the field not ordinarily seen, but now visible. Like all living things, this little dog has a sizable radiant field, even when he sits quietly. Notice now, as he greets his master, the obvious love and affection between them increases the dynamic radiation from their bodies, even the dog's tail and the man's head. No wonder so many people have pets who give them pleasure and provide a vital field of energy to interact with. Wherever there is motion in the universe, there is increased flow in the field that humans interact with. See the explosive activity from the waves in from his body. Also, the electromagnetic field of the body is negatively charged or ionized, as are waves or tumbling water, which further expands and heightens his field, giving a physical exuberance and emotional excitement. No wonder that a day at the beach is so exhilarating.
What did you guys think about that? From everything I know, that's true. You do have an aura, and it changes throughout your body from different feelings or emotions or intent, but also parts of the body that are ill. The aura will have a different color, darker colors in that part of the body. This is something I know personally, but before I knew it personally, I was studying it in India, and there were these I guess you'd call them shaman, but they could actually we tried tricking them too with somebody that had a couple of conditions but only pointed one out and seeing if they could find the other one, and it was almost like this man could see. His description was that he can see inside of the body. He's not talking. He can see the aura too, but he's talking about he can actually see inside, like an MRI or an X-ray, and very popular. People go to him for treatment, but but he doesn't broadcast anything. He tries to stay low key, but he's a very well known, I guess, healer you would call him in that part of India. But yeah, it was really interesting. And with my friend, we didn't tell him about her second issue, and so we told him about the first one. Ended up giving more information on the first one. Then he found the second one and gave information about that one. And then he found one that hadn't completely started to grow yet. But he said, you need to be paying attention to this and be doing preventive maintenance, as far as diet, certain supplements to take, because this will get out of hand if you don't. So seeing that firsthand was, pretty amazing to me. But it's not like that's uncommon. It's uncommon here in the States because you have so many people trying to rip you off and get money from you for every little thing. But yeah, this guy was pretty amazing.
I usually like to fly under the radar, but I figured since I'm already on the campaign trail, why not?
So now tell the people how you deceive people most often. What is your most frequent technique that you use?
Oh, that's easy. Every generation is the same. I appeal to their lust and ego. I offer all the sex, wealth, and fame a person could want. Do as thou wilt has been my campaign slogan from the start. And my campaign platform hasn't changed either. I run on the same 3 issues every generation. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and pride of life.
Explain what exactly you mean by lust of the flesh. Make it easy for people to understand.
Come on now. What do I mean? Isn't it obvious? I just use humans' own innate physical desires against them. And since sexual desire seems to be the most powerful, I usually run with that. Now, I didn't create sex, but I must say I've done a superb job at perverting it. Take pornography, for example. Well, you should know a lot about this one, Ivan. Weren't you addicted to porn?
This interview is about you, not about me. Can we get back on subject?
Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. What I do is gradually get someone addicted to porn. And once lust has had its full work and he and she can no longer restrain themselves, they usually look to act out their fantasies on someone. And sometimes that someone is a child. Now, my plan plays out perfectly. That abused child will eventually turn to a life of promiscuity and perversion themselves, allowing me to continue my vicious cycle. And here's the kicker. Many of those abused girls end up right in the porn industry. Now, how's that for irony?
You also mentioned the lust of the eyes. Explain that a little further, how you use that against people.
Humans are never satisfied. You always crave more. Bigger house, bigger car, more money, more power. The list goes on and on. I just take their natural ambitious desire, pervert it, and use it against them for their own destruction. My plan is to allow them to never be content. As long as I can keep them craving what others have, I can depend on them to argue, fight, even kill to get it. Humans are so easily tricked into jealousy. And you know what they say. Jealousy is as cruel as the grave.
Yes, I have heard that before.
Now explain how you use the pride of life. How do you use that to get people to destroy themselves?
Humans are always on a quest for knowledge. I tricked the first humans to seek carnal knowledge over godly wisdom, and it's worked like a charm every generation since. With more knowledge comes more pride, and you know pride is my specialty. And since humans don't like to keep God in their wisdom, I'm able to seduce them with all types of things to help puff up their ego. Lately, fame has been my biggest seller. Who doesn't like attention and feeling more important than the next person? Once I make them famous, I can really use them to promote my agenda. With their help, I've convinced half of the world to not only accept sin, but to celebrate it.
So now tell the people what your main goals are. What exactly are you trying to achieve?
All of my policies are aimed to do one of three things: either steal, kill, or destroy. And if it's not doing one or all three of those things, then it's not in my agenda, and I'm not promoting it.
So explain how you target different ethnicities, how you use this against human beings.
Of course, I'd be a fool not to. Take black people, for instance. As a people, they're super spiritual, so I can't really convince them that there is no God. What I have been able to do as of late is convince them that he's not the God of the Bible. Now, I've been real successful at promoting black consciousness and Islam in their communities.
I'm so happy you mentioned black people. It seems as if we've been at the very top of your agenda for quite some time. Why is that?
A few reasons. Black people help me reach the masses. Now, as you know, I was over music in heaven. My beats were so dope, I got over a third of the angels to follow me. And once I got here to the earth, I needed artists and entertainers to help me promote my message here. Who better than black people? Black people possess all the natural rhythm and music ability that I need. And it's easy for me to influence them with money since so many of them grew up without it. Another reason I target black people is because they're strong mentally and physically. If black men were to ever find their identity in Christ, I'd be in trouble. So I try my best to destroy the black family structure and keep black men away from his family and the church. Drugs and incarceration are a couple of my more popular means. Without the head of the household present, I can become the head and influence the children without too much resistance.
So you mean to tell me that your policies are intentionally racist against black people?
Racist? This has got to be the best law I've ever come up with. Now, I can't believe that humans still believe they're different races. But to answer your question, yes. It has always been my policy to target and isolate a group of people. And out of all my strategies, this skin color thing has worked the best. I definitely want to keep white people and black people separated. As long as I can keep black people bitter and white people offended, I'm good. Hopefully black people will never forgive. That way I can continue to use them.
So how exactly do you encourage black on black crime? Is there a specific technique that you have or plan that you have in mind?
Well, as great as my administration is, we can't take all the credit for this. Black people help us tremendously. By aborting so many of their babies, they allow us to bring death to their communities. As the Bible says, they sow the wind and reap a whirlwind.
Now this one's obvious, but do you receive any pushback from anybody? And if yes, who exactly? What group of people?
One group in particular try to oppose every policy I try to implement. I would be so much further along in my agenda if it wasn't for them. Those pesky, born-again Jesus followers. They're a real thorn in my side. Every generation they come together and try to dismantle one of my signature policies. Now, I've convinced half of the world that Jesus didn't exist, and the other, I usually like to...
What did you guys think about that? I thought it was pretty spot on. I enjoyed watching that. It was very spot on too, and it was good to see what a kind of artistic rendition of interview with Satan and Lucifer, the devil, however you want to say it, how that interview would go. Definitely interesting. Good stuff. I liked it a lot. Hope you guys did too. You know, that just reminded me, yesterday when I was driving, I was sitting behind a, there were two cars at the first part of in front of the red light, and then I was behind one of them. They both happened to be Volkswagens. And so one was a Volkswagen Atlas and the other one was a Volkswagen Tiguan. And so I was just sitting there looking at them, and I noticed that the Volkswagen Atlas did not have the split between the V and the W, but the Tiguan did. And right when I pulled out my phone to go take a photo of it, the light turned green and, you know, people started moving. But I was like, wow. I called my buddy right after, telling him about that. But yeah, the whole monocle thing, you know, I actually believe in the Mandela effect. I believe that we shift. Well, I know that we shifted realities, you know, and we're still going about a shift. And some people are going to stay in those lower vibrational, more dense realities, and the rest of us are rising to the higher vibrations. And I even pulled out. I have this collector set of Monopoly. With gold pieces from the 80s, and I went and looked, and sure enough, the Monopoly guy does have a monocle. So, you know, yeah, it's strange, but if you're seeing one or the other, you're supposed to be in that dimension. So it kind of made me scratch my head. Why am I seeing both? You know, unless there's some people that say you shift in and out of dimensions, you know, tons of times every minute, you know, and you just don't realize it, which could be true, you know, but I know our particles do, so, you know, yeah, they do, so I'm sure it's possible that we do also.
Knowledge of good and evil is the nervous system, because it gives your soul the knowledge of good and evil. You are a soul and mind in the center of the brain. The all-seeing eye is your consciousness, your soul, because it's the observer of all things. It sees everything the mind is thinking. It sees all of the emotions you're feeling right now, and it sees with the two eyes. It's the all-seeing eye between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. So basically, you are consciousness experiencing a program being ran by the central nervous system. In fact, you're not even seeing into reality. Light is sucked through the black holes of the eyes, and an image is produced at the back of the brain. So everything is a projection from within yourself. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Always a trinity, because you are a soul, mind, and body. Soul is the watcher, the mind is the projector, projecting the soul into different realities, and the body is the body you inhabit when you project yourself. Brahma has many different heads because the soul inhabits different bodies. The mind connecting the soul to the body. The serpent symbolizes knowledge for the mind. Matthew 6:22, the light of the body is the eye. Therefore, if thine eye be single, thy whole body should be full of light. You are the entity inside of the brain, and this entity is God. This is why the ancients always depicted God in the brain. Head is heaven, heel is hell. These are mind states which you manifest, not physical places. This PDF gets updated every month. The link is in the bio.
It's the same way with your chakras, you know, your crown chakra, your higher self, all the way down to feet, which is the red chakra, which is lower vibration, which is physical reality also. So yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Teach you in school is a lie. You want the truth? The world is controlled by shadowy elites and shape-shifting lizard people.
Reagan, you're the life of this party. That's the most natural smile I've ever seen out of Mark Zuckerberg.
So the song Shake It Off was about how I shed my skin every 1,000 years. And the song Bad Blood was about how I drink blood out of my grandma's.
Toast to blood. Save some blood for Paul Rudd. I gave you my kidney, and it was delicious. Reagan, meet my favorite reptoid sensitives, Barb Shrike and Zarthax Griswold Walton of the Reptoid High Council.
Good evening, Your
you know, that's a movie or a series on Netflix called Inside Job, and you know, they always have to put stuff in front of our faces, right? That's part of the universal law. They have to put this stuff in front of our faces, and as long as nobody revolts or objects to what they're doing, they can go ahead with it, but they have to show it to us first. That's why we always see it in movies or TV shows, anything having to do with Hollywood. But that specifically reminded me, a few years ago, you know, I used to live in London, and so I've got friends there, and so one of my buddies, you know, messaged me telling me to, and he sent me a link to somebody's YouTube that was going live, and I forget where they were, but anyways, there was a lady with a megaphone, and there were, you know, protesters and people all around her, and she just had her megaphone and a few people with her with documents and stuff to show people, and she was out there, you know, talking about, you know, how the queen isn't human, and how she was kidnapped by them, and right when she had said a lot of stuff before this, but right when she goes to go into that, you know, she starts to break down a bit because she's having to relive it as she tells it. She's reliving it, and so she talks about how her eldest son would come in first, and she would be tied up in a room, and it was pretty dim lighting in that room, and her eldest son would come in, and then he would shift but just stand there, and they were waiting on, you know, the queen, and she said the queen loved to induce fear into people. Well, why do they like inducing fear? Think about that. You know, that what's it called? That stuff that they like to get out of you. I don't want to say the actual thing, but you know, sounds like arena home. You know what I mean? So so she was saying that, you know, while she was tied up, the queen would come in, and then she would turn her back to her and get undressed, and then she said she would slowly start to shift, and because she was so old, you know, she was bigger than any of the other ones that she had seen. She had only seen two other ones, which were her sons, but she was saying because of her age, when she would shift, she would do it slowly, because this was terrifying that woman. She was a girl at the time, and said she would, you know, kind of hold herself together and look behind like that to see how terrified she is, and then start doing other things, you know, shifting, and you know, there's this big rally out there, you know, and people are saying she's not human, and people are talking about other experiences, and these are the locals, you know, and the funny thing is, you know, it didn't make it. There were a few thousand people out there, it looked, and nobody seemed to have been you know, like nobody seemed to be interested from like the mass media. It was just local stuff. And then I saw a few people putting it up on TikTok, and they got taken down, you know, pretty immediately. So I don't know.
You have more than one body. You have a physical, etheric, astral, and mental body. Every physical object has an energy double And this is the etheric energy double connecting the physical body to the astral body. This is why the word either and ether are the same thing. Either is connecting two scenarios in language. I either support Man U or Liverpool. The ether is connecting the physical to the astral. The astral is the dream world. It's the fourth dimension. This is where thought forms start to manifest as a thing. Because the mind is pure thought, just the idea. The astral is the mental image you see in your head. This is why the pineal gland is known as the third eye, because it sees this screen in your mind, the fourth dimension. You can activate these bodies by just working on them every single day. Eventually, you will gain the ability to astral travel and see these other entities which are all around us. The physical plane is the most dense. The higher you go, the more fluid it comes. It's like a ripple effect. Whether you believe it or not, this stuff is true, and you go there every night when you sleep. You just haven't woken up. Link is in the bio for this PDF. Patreon is now available for more occult information I can't talk about on social media. Join up. Heaven and hell are not places, they are mind states. Heel is hell, the root chakra, head is heaven, earth rearranged is heart. The three parts of the brain control the three sections of the body. Depending on which brain is dominant, you are either manifesting heaven or hell. If you're thinking with your gut area all the time, you are manifesting hell. The devil has goat features, which is a ground animal. The angel has wings, which is an air animal. The angel is your higher self, the devil is the lower self. Hence why the devil is red, because red is the lowest vibrational color. The devil is the deveiling, because you are mental, astral, etheric and physical. You are deveiling yourself by sitting in the lower states of consciousness. The body does not live. It is only maintained by the consciousness that is within it. And this consciousness is either operating in hell or heaven, depending on the three brains that you use dominantly. You descended from spirit into matter. Now you need to go back up to your true spirit form and move up the stairway to heaven, which is your spine. They've externalized it and turned it into a religion to hide the true power of yourself. The square symbolizes the physical plane. The triangle is the etheric plane, and the circle is the eternal plane. You need to think outside the box. The box is the cross unfolded, the cube, the physical world. The Christians believe 144,000 will go to heaven. This is actually a frequency you need to achieve to go from the root to the crown chakra, because your head is heaven and your heel is hell. The link is in the bio for the Book of Wisdom PDF.
Yeah, everything he's saying I've read most of my life in different cultures, different religions, and I'm sure you guys have too. Yeah, it's definitely interesting, especially talking about the three parts of the brain and you know, and your chakras and how everything's intertwined. And that's the thing, you know, we're all extremely powerful people. You know, think about it. The elite bankers, the Rockefellers, these people, they wouldn't have sank so much time into, you know, our grade 12 education system, where their goal was teach us everything about nothing, to just keep us occupied but be indoctrinated, because Rockefeller said, I want a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. So that's when things started to shift, you know, late 1800s, early 1900s, especially around 1920 when he did this with the school system, and you know, and even teaching evolution, and then ended up being wrong. But because they had sent so many people through college for 20 years, they couldn't go back and say this is wrong, so they just stuck with it. I mean, you know, we're powerful people, and we have the power. You know, that's the thing. But we've been lied to. We've been indoctrinated. You know, they've forced us to take things that keep us at a lower vibration. But right now, everybody's waking up, and it's terrifying them. They need us to be sheep. They need us to be at a lower vibrational state, because the kinds of things that they have to do to get their power, you know, like with this stuff with, you know, Arena Home and all of that other stuff, the things that they have to do to get their power, you know, is nothing like what we have to do to get ours. We already have ours. They're just trying to hold us down. They're trying to keep their feet on our necks so we don't ever raise up, because once we do, you know, it's over for them. And that's what's happening now. People are waking up everywhere, and it's a beautiful thing, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. and you have to know, you know, what you're dealing with. You don't want to do something, you know, that you see someone else do and then it's detrimental to you, you know, in any way. You want to go with the real thing. But, you know, as cheesy as it sounds, you know, the biggest thing in the whole universe is unconditional love. You know, that trumps everything. That literally trumps everything. As cheesy as it may sound, it does, you know. And and that's, you know, those people can't feel that. They have no way to feel it, you know. So they go about getting their powers other ways, you know, through, you know, sacrifices and these types of things and blood rituals, you know, and their main thing is to control the masses and always causing us versus them. Remember, I've said that in a lot of my other videos too. Whenever you see that there's an us versus them agenda going on, you know, that and follow the money. Those are the two big things, because, you know, they'll cause a war and make money off both sides of the war the entire time. You know, it's always a good time for them, whether we're in a recession, whether multiple countries are at war or during world wars. It's still a good time for them. It's never a bad time, because they control the narrative and they make money off of all sides. So before I get into this next video, I want to preface this by informing you that this guy's name is Eben Alexander II, and he was a neurosurgeon, and so he ended up catching one of the worst cases of meningitis, you know, doctors had ever seen. Excuse me. And the problem is, if you were in that area and you caught, you know, that bad of a case of meningitis, he's the guy that would fix you. But now it's him that has gotten it. So he was atheistic before, you know, didn't teach his children or their families, didn't believe in anything. I'm not sure if they were agnostic or not, but you know, he said he was atheist, you know, previously. But then while he's you know, in this coma, he's having these amazing experiences. And it's all the stuff that people always say, you know, when they're either in surgery and they're put under, or they've passed on, you know, and then came back, you know, talking about seeing the people working on them and things like that. He got to experience that, and it changed his entire mindset. So you know, and that's powerful. That's extremely powerful. You're talking about somebody who didn't talk about that kind of stuff, because, you know, in a lot of academia, if you talk about that, you'll get blackballed. You know, that's not something you're supposed to talk about. But his experience was so profound that once he was able to come out of it, you know, he just started writing, and he wrote this amazing book. I can't remember the name of it, but his thing was, you know, most doctors think that the brain creates consciousness, and like I always say, the brain is just a filter for for everything. You know, it's a filter. You know, but our consciousness, our unconscious mind can see more than our conscious mind can, but our conscious mind is just a filter, just like our, you know, our senses are all filters, and they're pretty poor filters, you know, at best, you know. So but yeah, I just wanted to introduce that so you'll know who this guy is, and why this is such a shock for him to be talking about things like this. So we'll get into it.
That is extraordinary, and I think it's going to lead to a complete shift in our worldview that is unprecedented. And this living in a mindful universe is really about that scientific revolution.
Are you discounting whether the brain controls consciousness?
No, I think what we would say is the brain is a reducing valve or filter that allows primordial consciousness in. That is, the brain is not the creator of it. You cannot explain all of the details of human experience, especially all the evidence for non-local consciousness, the evidence for things like reincarnation, past life memories in children, indicative of reincarnation, things like that, if you think the brain is the producer of consciousness.
So what is the producer?
Well, consciousness is what exists and generates the entire universe. It's the fundamental ground state.
Consciousness now, right?
It's all consciousness. It's all generated within consciousness. I mean, the thing to remember is we're under, we discuss in the book, what we call the supreme illusion, and that is that the brain and mind are very good at convincing us that all this stuff around us is out there. But what you're actually experiencing is a model deep within mind that is supposed to represent something that is out there. But I think that's where it's important to point out the mystery of quantum physics, because the experiments in quantum physics keep showing us in no uncertain terms that consciousness is fundamental, that the conscious observer and our free will has everything to do with determining outcomes. It's not determined by mechanistic chemical reactions and the laws of physics and chemistry applied to the brain.
Doesn't it almost destroy everything you learned?
Let me pause right there. Did you hear what he just said? So the outcomes are based on observance. You know, he's talking about the slit experiment. You know, so with the electrons in the slit experiment, and you know, there's two slits, and they should be making, you know, even pairs of going through the holes, shooting electrons through the holes. But once a human person, a human being, was observing them, they would decide where and when to be. So they would decide which slit to go through, or might not even go through a slit, or might go, you know, somewhere else in time, or relocate, you know, because they were being observed by people. That's like groundbreaking, and that's why quantum physics is so exciting, because you're talking about a particle that will make a choice based on if a person is observing it or not. How do you even explain that, you know? So yeah, he gets into some good stuff, but yeah, it's amazing. A lot of this stuff is just so amazing that we're doing these days, and that we're finding out about these truths.
Absolutely not. In fact, it opens the door to a far broader understanding. Because what we're saying is the brain is simply a reducing valve that allows certain conscious states to exist. And this is where, from the quantum physical standpoint, it's really getting at what's known as the observer. That is the deep mystery, is the awareness of existence. And what I would submit is that we're conscious in spite of our brain. And so, in fact, the big surprise and kind of the practical lesson for human beings is that when your physical brain and body die, your conscious awareness actually expands tremendously.
An atypical feature of my near-death experience was that I was amnesic, that I had no memories of Eben Alexander's life, no knowledge of this universe, of humanity, no language. Every bit of that was gone. And I think that empty slate was very important for some of the lessons I was to learn. But it is an unusual feature. You don't often find that kind of complete amnesia for life during an NDE. And of course, when I first came back to this world, when my neuroscience memories were still not back, but I knew from talking to my doctors I'd had a severe case of meningitis, I thought, well, I guess that would explain why those memories seemed to disappear, because I was still harboring the illusion that memories are stored in the brain. But we discuss in our book, Living in a Mindful Universe, all the scientific evidence that memories are not stored in the brain at all. And anyway, deep in this experience, the way it all started was earthworm's eye view, primitive coarse unresponsive realm, like I was in dirty jello, roots or blood vessels all around me. I had no body awareness at all during this phase of the journey. If I had just gone to that earthworm's eye view and come back to this world, I would have had a hellish NDE or a negative NDE. But that's not what happened. I was rescued by this slowly spinning white light. But starting my journey, amnesia. I had no memory of anything. I was in this dirty kind of underground space. I call it the earthworm's eye view. I remember roots or blood vessels all around me. It was like being in dirty jello. There was this pounding, monotonous sound to it all. It seemed to go on forever and ever. And since I had no memory of anything else, it wasn't as foreboding as it sounds. I simply accepted it as this is existence. This is it. Now, what happened after that, though, was that it slowly spinning white light. Perfect piece of metal approached me out of the great darkness. And as it did, it opened up like a rift. What happened? And that ugly earth from my view led up into this room. It's the real gateway drug. And that's where things really started to get absolutely astounding. The sense of reality, and you must understand that people often say these experiences are ineffable.
Yeah, that's actually my same experience. It is completely ineffable. Say if we have 20 shades of blue here, there's 100,000 shades of blue there, and every other color. It's more lively. It's more vibrant. It's just more on every level. It's more, but the negatives are not there. You never feel unconditional love like you do when you're there. That's not, it's, you feel unconditional love here, but in comparison to there, it's completely different. You know, everything is just so much more. And that's why a lot of people don't want to come back. They don't want to leave. They're like, this is my home. This is where I should be. I don't want to go back. Then, because of their contract or what have you, they get sent back.
Okay, so these weird hieroglyphic letters that you're looking at right here is something that us in the DMT community refer to as the secret writing or the secret language, and it's essentially this bizarre alien looking language that a lot of DMT users report seeing, including myself. I was on 10 grams of mushrooms and ended up smoking DMT towards the tail end of the trip, and had these letters projected in front of me almost like a hologram, very similar to the Matrix movies. The first person to really depict this language was Alison Gray, and it's become a staple of her art. She says it refers to the ineffable spirit of receiving information that cannot be known literally, which is interesting because a common phenomenon in the DMT experience is this feeling of you had information downloaded into you that you cannot put into words. My favorite depiction of this secret language is an artist called Ben Ridgway because it most closely resembles what I saw. Some people theorize that it's us tapping into the Akashic records, or it's like aliens trying to communicate with us. In my experience, the secret language looked very alien yet very familiar, almost as if it was something that I had seen before.
So if you don't know what the Akashic records are, the Akashic records is a hall where there's a master library of everything that's ever happened in our universe. It has every single thought you've ever had, every intention you've ever had, everything that's ever happened. The Akashic Records has everything. And you'll hear a lot of people say things like, it feels like I just got a download of information. That comes from the Akashic Records most of the time. Unless there's something trying to give you that information specifically for you for that situation. But a lot of times you can access the Akashic Records. And it's happened to me a lot, and it's happened to other people. And I've said this before in other videos, because of my experiences, I come back with a sense of just knowing certain things, just knowing. And I can even explain them, but I can't explain how I know, because we don't have the words to quantify that really. And so, but yeah, the Akashic Records is a library of the universe with everything in it, and you can access the Akashic Records, but you don't have to. There's many different things you can do to access the Akashic Records, but meditating is a really good way to have some of that stuff downloaded into your mind, into yourself, so that you could have that information. But there's other things that you can do that are even wilder, that get you more information. Not wild, but different, you know, very different, in fact. And people would say, oh, there's no way you can do that. Yeah, you can, but you have to be in the right state of presence and mind to be able to accept that. That's the thing. You know, I've messed up doing it, and you know, I might have I've done it. You know, I started doing it, and then you know, in the middle of it, you know, something, you know, gets to me, and I'm getting aggravated about something, and that just throws everything off, and then I've just wasted my time. So I had to, you know, really calm myself down, humble myself, and realize that there's only now. Everything is now, and yeah, it's time doesn't exist there. You know, like I said, I've gotten to the point to where I've meditated, and it's usually around this time of year when this happens. It happens a few times, but you know, I'll go outside at, you know, 4:30 when I get off of work, 5:30, and I'll meditate. You know, and it might be a nice 65 degrees, 60 degrees, but then, you know, I'll mean to meditate for 15 minutes to 45 minutes, you know, and the next thing I know, you know, I open my eyes and I'm shivering because I've been out there for 2.5 hours, and the temperature has dropped to the low 40s or high 30s. So uh, that's just my experience. Let me know about yours in the comments if you've ever experienced any of this, especially with the DMT. DMT is very interesting to me. Um, I've always wanted to try it. I've done microdosing, excuse me, and I'm a proponent of microdosing. It's helped me tremendously, and a lot of people say that, you know, things like ayahuasca, microdosing, and DMT, you know, can, you know, it's like getting 10 years of therapy into, you know, a few minutes. So, but it's amazing to see the people when they come out of it, how they just look lighter and happier. There's an air about them that wasn't there before they did it. And yeah, I definitely want to try, you know, all of that, but I don't want to do, I don't want to go like DMT crazy like a lot of people do, and you know, they're just doing it just to do it. You know, I'm interested in, you know, since your body already produces DMT, maybe adding a little bit or getting a big enough of it in you. They call it the blast off, so you get that blast off to where you actually take off. I'm curious about that and curious to see if I have these same experiences. Let me know in the comments if you've done it, what your experiences were. I would love to talk to people about that, so just let me know.
A secret office of the CIA has collected at least 9 non-human spacecraft from all over the world over the last 20 years. The Daily Mail also reporting of those 9 spacecraft, 1 had crashed with considerable damage. The 2 others were completely intact. The retrieval mission was allegedly performed by the military, and then these spacecraft were handed off to private corporations.
Whatever they are not of human origin, nor do they behave according to the laws of known physics. And yes, the U.S. government currently has physical evidence that they exist. That means wreckage of the craft as well as the bodies of the beings that flew them.
That something with the capabilities of traveling light years, not showing a heat signature, and the energy capabilities of that would put the Pentagon out of business. We wouldn't be fighting these worthless wars overseas over oil, and American boys and girls wouldn't be dying. It would put the war pigs out of business, and they'd have to go somewhere else, and I'm all for that. I'm all for
that too.
September the 4th, 1954. Just an ordinary day, or so it seemed. Santiago Flight 513, a commercial plane taking off from Aachen, Germany, was getting ready for its routine journey to Santiago, Chile. The plane was packed with 88 passengers and crew, ready to take to the skies and reach their destination. Little did they know, they were about to be part of one heck of a mystery. Out of nowhere, without any warning, Santiago Flight 513 vanished from the radar. All communication was cut off, and it was as if the plane and everyone on board had been swallowed up by some kind of black hole. They searched high and low, hoping to find any trace of the missing aircraft. But hold on to your hats, because things get even weirder. Fast forward 35 years to October the 12th, 1989, and we got ourselves an unexpected twist. The air traffic control tower at Porto Alegre Airport in Brazil was minding its own business when, bam, they spotted something weird on their radar screens. An unidentified aircraft just popped out of thin air, totally out of the blue. The whole airport was buzzing. Airport officials were on the edge of their seats, hearts racing, as they tried to make sense of this eerie situation. Was this some kind of ghost plane or a time-traveling aircraft? Nobody had a clue, but one thing was for sure. The legend of Santiago Flight 513 was back in the spotlight, and the mystery was far from over. The airport security team approached the aircraft, but they discovered the shocking truth. It was indeed Santiago Flight 513, the very same flight that had vanished 35 years ago. But what awaited them inside the cabin was a scene that would forever haunt their memories. As the security team made their way through the eerie stillness of the aircraft, they were met with a bone-chilling sight. The passengers and crew who had boarded the flight all those years ago sat in their seats, frozen in time, their bodies reduced to nothing more than skeletal remains. The whole cabin, once alive with chit-chat and the hum of the engines, was now an eerie graveyard, frozen in time, leaving investigators and the public scratching their heads and wondering what actually happened.
Do you guys remember that flight? I've got a few questions. How did the plane land itself? That's my biggest question. How did the plane land itself? But also, you know, there's no way for us to know, but, you know, I've thought about this a lot since it first came out. And I'm just thinking, you know, what could have caused everyone on that flight to become unalived? Like, it had to happen fast because everybody was still, like, wearing their seat belts. They were sitting normally. They weren't doing things like trying to break into the cockpit or, you know, jump out or, you know, going mad so they're all over the plane. No, they were all neatly seated in their seats with their seatbelts on. And that makes me wonder, you know, what happened to where it unalived all of them to where so fast. Maybe the experience of, you know, transporting from, you know, where they were to where they ended up, maybe that experience in and of itself caused that. But still, if that caused that, then also what landed the plane? Who landed the plane? How did the plane land? You know, that's just my thoughts.
The story of the Dogon. The story is that there's a tribe in Mali, Africa, Western Africa, very remote region, that had never been visited by the outside world. The tribe had all these incredible stories. They had drawn in the sand, like orbital tracks of stars and stuff, and things that they should not have known. Because the telescope hadn't been invented, they knew about Sirius, the star, Sirius A, but B hadn't even been discovered yet by radio telescope. Once B was discovered, they were like, wait, so the Dogon already knew about that before they even had telescopes. But they also say there's a star called Sirius C that we haven't even discovered yet. They knew incredible amounts of information, not just about the Sirius star system, but about our Earth, about the energy of it, about the source god. The history of the Dogon is unusual because they came from Africa. They actually were originally part of the ancient African Egyptian area, and they left because of religious prosecution, and then it ended up in Mali, which is sort of strange on its own because we're going to see other comparisons and connections through that part of Africa with parts of like the Olmec in Mexico, in Veracruz, which is very unusual, which shows they've likely made it. What they state is that they learned everything from a great traveling being, a great sage that was known as Awanas in ancient Sumer. They depicted it as like an aquatic being, which I think was purely symbolic, because when you go to Sumer and you learn about the great sages like Adapa and the Apkallu, they use symbolism to describe them in a way of what their mentality, what their purpose, a lot of different aspects of them. And you find that there was an ancient Sumerian god who is the heart of their entire civilization, known as Enki.
So the Dogon tribe, I would highly suggest you guys research if you have not already. The Dogon tribe, they do these ceremonies to where they have these headdresses, but they look exactly like an astronaut's helmet. Identical to an astronaut's helmet. They even draw these. So with accurate depictions of, the oxygen lines and everything, it's very, and the glass in the front of the helmet, it's very strange to look at. But they also, one of my favorite topics on the Dogon tribe is that they actually remember a time before the moon existed. This is passed down through stories, generation through generation, and they talk about the time before there was a moon. So the moon has not always been here, and these people remember it. And there's a culture similar to theirs in Papua New Guinea. A lot of people don't know this, but they actually invented bungee jumping. Ones in the tribes in Papua New Guinea. So they have this big, it looks like a giant scaffold, that they created out of bamboo and sticks, but it goes really, really high. And then they dig the ground to where it's at an angle, angling down like that, a hill. And then they get to the top, and to their feet, they have, these little, ropes that they make from the bark of trees or from other things. They have that tied to them, and they just take off flying forward. And then they'll hit the ground at that incline, and then it snaps them back. But yeah, they've been bungee jumping for like thousands of years. It's the craziest thing, and nobody talks about that. They've been doing this for so long, and like people think bungee jumping was a new thing. No, it's not at all.
Came across this really quite by chance. Found myself in the city of Aksum in Tigray in northern Ethiopia, and there were some strange processions going on and wonderful music and dancing and rituals being performed, and I asked, what's this all about? And they said, well, we have the Ark of the Covenant here. Ceremonials are in honor of the Ark of the Covenant. And you've got the Ark of the Covenant here? I'd just seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. You've got the Ark of the Covenant here? Where? And they said, well, it's in that enclosure, and there's a huge religious enclosure in the heart of Aksum, which contains a 16th century church of St. Mary of Zion, and beside it a little chapel. And it's in that chapel that the Ethiopians claim the Ark is kept. And this is not a minor issue for Ethiopians. This is a very major issue for them. It's fundamental to Ethiopian culture. It's something that a lot of people don't understand. And it's kind of odd because the Ark of the Covenant is a pre-Christian relic, and Ethiopia is largely a Christian country. Why is Ethiopian Christianity, which is very Old Testament in its form, very un-New Testament in its form, why is it, but still calling itself Christianity, why is it venerating a pre-Christian, non-Christian relic?
So I would also suggest you research Aksum in Ethiopia. So in Ethiopia, that's where the Queen of Sheba comes from also, and her love with I can't think of the name of the Roman general, but anyways, yeah, I can't remember right now, but they had Samson together. Hair strength was in his hair, and the big thing about Ethiopia and that Ark of the Covenant is, so at a certain age, like before adulthood, before you're, well, considering our adulthood, before you're 21, uh, somebody gets chosen by the previous person to go live in that church where the Ark of the Covenant is. And there's a fence around it, and there's armed guards around it all the time. And so, you know, they claim to have the Ark there, but no one is allowed to see it, of course. But on their religious days, they will actually create these makeshift arcs and carry them through the streets for a parade as you know, as a symbology to, you know, them having that there. But one of the craziest things is there's a part of that island that that's right over the sea, and they say that when uh when Rome was at war at a specific time, you know, they brought the ark there and to get it out of harm's way. And so it came to this area, and they had to, you know, climb up these steep walls of hills to get to the flatland. And they had to create a place for the ark to sit, and that place still exists today. So there's a big round circle with cement with these big rings that are in them that the poles can go through for the ark to be able to be held there. And then now they've put in like this makeshift shed. Not a makeshift, it's a shed. It's just old and dingy, rusted, but it's a shed. And what you'll see inside of that shed are the exact same armor that the Israelites wore during, like, when they were tearing down the walls of Jericho, blowing that long horn. They have one of these long horns, you know, they have one of those there. They have the exact body wear, the body armor that they wore, and all of it. They have all of it, and it's really amazing. And so they even have the plate. It's a big round, concave plate that they would sacrifice chickens to, and you know, all of that is right there. But like I was saying about Aksum, so a person gets chosen to guard the Ark of the Covenant, so he never leaves that property after that. I don't know if he's a priest or a bishop or what, but whoever he is, he never leaves that property. He is on that property until his unaliving day. And before he is unalived, he chooses his successor, because somebody always has to do that. They bring them food all the time. See, no one's allowed in, and he's not allowed out. So once he takes that, and that's a hell of a commitment, you know. That's an extreme commitment to say, yeah, you know, I'd love to, you know, be next. And some of them have said they've seen it, you know, but I think the most recent one, like 10 or 15 years ago, he said he had seen it. He was the guard that was staying in the church in Aksum, where he didn't stay where the Ark of the Covenant was. He stayed in a different area of the building, but yeah, you know, they interviewed him, and they talk about how it's there, and people bring him food. He can't leave, and nobody can come in. They take it very seriously. But the other thing is also, I'll have to show you a copy. I have the Ethiopic Bible. So the Ethiopic Bible is the only Bible that didn't go through the Council of Nicaea. It didn't get, you know, the Book of Enoch, all of these apocryphal texts. All of these are in the Ethiopic Bible. all of this is still in there, which is why it's an amazing read. You know, I had it before they discovered, you know, the lost writings, the apocryphal writings, you know, the biblical extra biblical, I guess you would say, non apocryphal texts. But yeah, anyways, so I had that Bible already and I had read it, and so I'd already known about Enoch and, you know, and all of those things, but that's within their canon. Their Bible has that all canonized within their Bible. It's all in there. Nothing had been taken out. So that's another interesting thing. So there's interesting things that that renders this, you know, at least, you know, some studying, some research, because there's a lot of good stuff there, a lot, and who knows if they have it or not, you know. But we do know from the Bible that it was, you know, taken from Queen Sheba, and then it was in Rome, and then they gave her a copy, and then, you know, they got it back, you know, all these things, because Solomon could control the demons, you know, and so Solomon took it, you know, and it's just a lot of stuff like that.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. You know, that was the theory that Terence McKenna had to the thing that's going to change the universe, is that one day someone's going to invent a time machine, and that when they invent a time machine, all time ceases to become linear. So you think if you have a time machine, well, I'll just go back to the time where they were making the pyramids and I'll watch them do it. That's not what it works like. What he was saying, you can't travel where there are no roads. So once a road gets built, then you can travel. So once a time machine gets invented, then anyone from the invention of the time machine forward to forever can come back to that moment and can go to any point in time from that moment to the end of time. So all time ceases to be linear. So there's no like tomorrow will be Wednesday and the next day will be Thursday. No. It's everything happens everywhere all at once. So people can travel back and forth through time. You can never own anything because someone could just travel through time and take it away from you when you weren't looking. Like, as time travel gets more and more sophisticated, you can go back and forth in time while you're talking to people. You know, if you don't like what you said, you could rewind and start all over again. If you're in an argument with your wife, you can go to the library and get information and come back and go, actually, you know, Herodotus once said, and then bam, your wife thinks you're the smartest guy in the world.
Yeah, time has never been linear. Time has never been linear. We look at it as linear because we have to, because it's how humans use it, but it's never been linear. Everything is always happening now. Everything is always now. So it's never been linear. We don't really have the words to describe how time truly operates. You know, it would take a lot of math and a lot of things to explain it. But yeah, time has never been linear.
Captured everybody's attention is the giant, creepy puppet that's being pulled out of the water. But it gets even weirder. As they pull off the helmet, it seems so realistic. It's creepy. Take a look at this footage and tell me what you think.
Did you guys just see that thing blink? It blinked. Did you see it? I see in the comments they're saying it's a French street theater called Royal de Lux. They're giant marionettes. But if they're giant marionettes, Why is the head moving and why is he blinking if nobody's pulling the strings? I'm going back a few seconds. This thing blinked. Watch the eyes. I know you see that head moving around looking side to side. If that was a marionette, it would not be doing that. Unless it were underwater and the water was making it do that, but he's not in the water anymore. Excuse me. I'm gonna go back a few seconds. No, that thing is looking around. Looking around. No. No. What? No. You know what a marionette is? Like a dummy. You have to pull the strings. I see a cable from where they were pulling this thing up. But look how real the hair looks. Yeah, usually they use real hair on these dolls, but let me go back a few more seconds. No.
Captured everybody's.
Okay, so what if that was just made to look like a marionette? That's what it looks like to me. It looks like it was made to look like a marionette. It looks like it's got all of the stuff, but it's kind of artificial, you know, or I mean superficial. You know, it doesn't look like it's got the real things that a marionette would have. It looks like they're trying to fake it being a marionette. And if that's an art piece, why is it so huge and it's down in a... have a little girl also? I could be wrong, but why is it in the water though if this is an art piece? They say there's a little girl too. Why is it in the water though? Like, is this art for the fish? Are the fish supposed to start appreciating art? Because as big as that is, he's way down there. So who's appreciating the art? Nobody can see it. I don't know. I just came across this and it's freaking me.
Remember the whole concept of like fallen angels? In Lebanon and in the area of Syria is a place called Mount Hermon. Mount Hermon is supposedly where some of these fallen angels in the Book of Enoch came down. Now, the Book of Enoch, for people that don't know, was originally supposed to be a text in the Christian text, the Hebrew Christian text, but it was taken out. So the point is, these creators did something they weren't supposed to. They supposedly broke these universal cosmic laws that exist, that they're supposed to adhere to.
Which are?
Which are, creation can only happen if it's based on certain things. They violated creation by, and I hope I don't lose people with this, but they describe how they created us and we were so perfect that some of them had sex with the women. This is where we get into demi bloodlines. But the Book of Enoch predominantly says they were fallen, or they became fallen, because they slept with the...
It does not say that they slept with the women. It says that they took human women as their wives. Took.
The daughters of men, and that's a Genesis too, and then created this abominated bloodline that was like half gods and half humans. And this is what angered in those ancient texts I told you about, some of these gods falling out of favor with humanity and then putting us into like basically like hell, creating hell here
on Earth.
Yes.
Thomas Edison was a bad man. Do you know about all the stuff that he did to try to destroy Nikola Tesla? So Nikola Tesla was a God-given genius, you know, if there ever was one. And he invented what is called the alternating current, which is what we use in all of our buildings today. He invented it from the direct current that was created by Thomas Edison. I believe Tesla created the alternating current while working for Edison, who had created the direct current. He created something better. Edison didn't like that. Nikola Tesla wanted to go out on his own, have his own inventions. It was clear cut that the alternating current was better than the direct current. Thomas Edison went on this smear campaign against Nikola Tesla, trying to destroy all of the funding that he might get. And so what he was doing was he would bring these elephants, like he would get elephants from India and from Africa, he would get them sailed into the US, and he'd get these other big animals and he'd take them into the streets, and he would basically say, don't listen to Nikola Tesla. His invention of the alternating current causes this to happen. And he'd show some kind of experiment, and he would electrocute an elephant to death. But you know what he was doing it with? The direct current that he invented to electrocute elephants to death in the middle of a town square to smear Nikola Tesla. Thomas Edison was a bad man.
That's crazy. The things that you could have gotten away with back then. You know, talking about taking, you know, African or Asian elephants and electrocute them with your own technology, making it look like it was Tesla's technology. So don't use Tesla's because his does this to you. Monstrous.
What was the miracles of Solomon? Solomon had the power to control and to command every living creature in this world and in the world we can't see. He had dominion over both dimensions, the dimension that we live in and the demonic dimension. In the Quran, it even says that he was building his temple and he commanded the demonic realm to dive to the deepest parts of the ocean and to remove pearls and treasures from the sea so he could decorate the temple with it. And these beings would go literally to the bottom of the ocean in a millisecond, in the flash of an eye, and bring him back these jewels. It mentions the Queen of Sheba in the Quran, where he sent for her to come to his kingdom, and he said, which one of you, and he's talking to the jinn, the demonic realm, and he tells them, which one of you will bring me her throne by the time she gets here? And then one of them boasts, I will. And within the blink of an eye, this throne appears in Solomon's kingdom. So that when Queen Sheba comes, she sees her own throne there. She's like, how is my throne here? And then she realizes she's dealing with Solomon, prophet of God, had power over both dimensions, bro. This is why the occult has always obsessed with Solomon. What was the miracle?
Yeah, that's true. I would suggest you look up the Keys of Solomon, or the lesser 72 Keys of Solomon. It really goes into depth, and a lot of occultists use this, but it's still a good read. I have both of them. But it just goes into how he went to bind demons and make them do his bidding. So I wouldn't recommend trying to do this or invoke it, but one of the things is with these, like if you get these books out of Europe where they've been around for centuries, they're not newly converted ones, which is what I have a lot of. A lot of these things that they used, you can't even find anymore. Like these plants, these types of things, they've gone extinct. So you would have to, if you wanted to do this, I don't know why you would be so stupid as to want to bind one of these, but 'cause they hate being bound. But you would have to supplement, this for that. If it's something that they used back then, but we don't have it here, then try to use the closest thing. And who knows how much that alters things, because it's just like a sigil. You alter the sigil in the slightest, it becomes ineffective. So who knows?
In the archives at the Vatican, first of all, it's about 5 miles of archives underground and very, very secure access. In other words, you can't just go, I'm going to go check out the archives underground. No, you have to be security cleared, almost top secret cleared based on their standards to get down there. Down there also, according to even some Jesuits, are bones of actual alien beings, information about advanced beings that visited this planet, the Anunnaki. They have all these relics and artifacts of these particular people. They have information even out of Iraq that shows and proves that advanced races had lived on this planet long before this current civilization here exists. I'm talking about eons and eons ago, super highly advanced with technologies and capabilities of flight and everything else, weapons of war that existed. All that information is stored underneath the Vatican archives, along with some of the most incredible texts and books and inventions that ever existed on this planet. And they siphon it away, and they're hoarding all of that wisdom and knowledge so that they can keep control and power and domination over the world. And guess what? It's working.
Yeah, I completely agree with him. And I've done videos, short things about the Vatican, but I'm preparing a very long one to do about the Vatican. It's just they're pure evil. And I'm sorry if I offend any Catholics. My father, was Catholic. Most Germans were back then. Excuse me, but he wasn't really. He was just, a scene thing. He needed to be seen going to Sunday church and mass and all of that, but he didn't believe in any of it. And but yeah, here's something that I do want you guys to research though. Look up the Black Pope. So you're gonna see, you've got your regular white Pope, and then you've got your Jesuit Black Pope. And just like the white popes, different ones reign in different years. There's always one. But the Black Pope controls the white Pope. The Black Pope controls everything. And I hope I don't get banned for talking about this. But there was another video that I put out, and you can see, and a few other people put this out. It was the Jesuits' manifesto, their creed. And it wasn't the real creed, because I have the real creed, and I said this on my video. It took me about a week to read it, and not because it was that long, because the wording of what they were saying you as a Jesuit has to do, it just upturned my stomach. It made me nauseated, because I could not believe that I was seeing this kind of evil put into text saying that you must do this. So if you go look up the Jesuit creed or the Jesuit manifesto, if they show you like something short and it doesn't make your stomach churn, because people are putting out a lot of fakes, that's not it. I could only read a paragraph at a time, and then I would have to let it sink in, and it would make me feel disgusting, and then I'd come back the next day, read another paragraph, and oh, this is even worse than the first one. I'm done. My brain, I've got to rest. So If it's not like that, then it's not the real manifesto. And I've been seeing people posting the fake manifesto, the fake Jesuit oath and creed. And, you know, I have the real one. I will not post it because that will get me banned because of what it says. So just go out there and do your research. But I would highly suggest, so you can understand the papal seat and how evil they are, and then understand the Black Pope and the Jesuits around them. You know, even when you know, old man Biden was being elected, he had 3 Jesuits around him signing, you know, stuff. They were in the background with the rest of the cabinet members, things like that. So yeah, seriously, look into that.
Moses is not the real name. That's the made-up name. It really was Pharaoh Akhenaten, who was ushering in monotheism in Egypt while he was a pharaoh, worshiping Amen-Ra, the great Amen. Amen-Ra was one of these Anunnaki people. Said, look, from now on, there'll be no other God but me. That made it into the Bible. When you say thanks, you say thanks to me. You say amen. That made it into the Bible. Teach the people only to worship me, not any of my other relatives. I'm the only one and true God. They kicked him out of Egypt. They kicked the Pharaoh out of Egypt, and he fled with his new followers. They crossed the Sea of Reeds, not the Red Sea, which they tell you in the Bible. Nobody ever crossed the Red Sea. It's a mistranslation by accident on purpose. They crossed a much smaller, much easier to cross sea. People realized the information that they had been brought up learning is actually severely inaccurate, and that the information is based on plagiarized tablets between Islam and Christianity and Buddhism and all these other religions that have taken from the same tablets. And the real stories are in the tablets. A full, unedited, undoctored, and change these words around here and there, you know, that's not done in the tablets. The tablets is what it says. When you come to the Bible, all of a sudden you get to a lot of text like Jesus saying, honor your slave master as you would honor me. Do you think that just guy would really say something like that if he's all this light and he's a light being and he's all about love and salvation, and then he's telling you now, no, you better obey that slave master? Come on, that's somebody, you know, let me write this in there because it's going to benefit us when we write this in. We can tell the slaves, hey, you see what Jesus said? You better listen to Jesus. So this is a lot of twisting and turning. The Bible is a remix, is what it really is.
Yeah. Another thing about Akhenaten is, you know, he was trying to do away with polytheism and bring in monotheism, and he's depicted more strangely than the rest of the pharaohs. So he had one of those long heads, you know, oval heads. He had a big pot belly, and when they kicked him out of Egypt, they literally defaced him from every statue, painting, image that he ordered to be built. Everything that he had done, they tried to get rid of because they did not want him. But he also didn't look like any of the other pharaohs. So that was a strange thing. You know, it's just the fact that him in general didn't fit what a normal pharaoh would look like, or even a regular person at that time would look like.
Wow, the pyramid, first of all, when you stand next to the Great Pyramid, time slows down because it's time dilation bubble. They knew all of this stuff. I mean, the Great Pyramid itself is a gigantic multifunctional stone computer and power generator. It's got multiple functions. And so when you begin to analyze it as a technological device, not as a monument, all of a sudden, all these question marks start popping up. And when you begin to start looking for answers to those question marks and start studying engineering books, you start to see that we're looking at a real machine. And it's so ingenious how they built this. There's a couple ways that it could happen. First of all, it never was a mud ramp. Mud ramps is a complete farce because you would need more mass than the pyramid in mud.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? And when you stand next to these megalithic blocks, you're going to realize you can't put them on top of tree logs. You got to go get the tree logs from Turkey and bring them all the way down to Egypt. And then you got to get these stones and put them on top and roll them in the sand. The more asinine it begins to sound. But when you start to look at some of the writings and you hear that Thoth talks about a couple different things. First, there was a quarry that they used to harvest some of these stones. And you can see that and you can witness it. You can go there and see that. They obviously had some type of gravity control system.
So, I don't know if you guys know, but this is Billy Carson, and he talks a lot about this stuff, and he's usually right on a lot of things. he's done the research. He goes down there and looks at the stuff. He talks to the scholars, physicists, and archaeologists. And I can attest, I've been to the pyramids, and I can attest that you do feel something when you're there, but also there's a lot of trash. You have these little sandstorms which will pick up randomly, and then they'll just trash sandstorms going around. But the pyramids were never meant to be tombs or chambers for the pharaohs. They were never meant for that. We know that. And we also know that you could not slide a piece of paper between the two stones. That's a degree of tolerance that NASA shuttles don't even have. I can tell you that for a fact because I've worked on them. So that degree of tolerance is, you had to be very exact. And the Egyptians were some of the greatest chroniclers of all time, the greatest historians. They wrote down everything. And you do see, giants. You see giant beings with regular people. You see giant beings in seats, carrying stones. They obviously used sound. Sound would be the way, frequency would be the way that they levitate, carry them. Because like he said, the things that people have come up with of how they've built them, it's just, you couldn't do it in one pharaoh's lifetime if you did it that way. It would not be possible to do it in one pharaoh's lifetime. The next pharaoh would come into place and be like, tear all that down and, work on mine, what I want. So, no. It didn't happen the way that they're trying to portray it, and there's so much more to it that people don't realize. But there was a guy, I can't remember his name, there was a guy in Arizona, older man, and he figured out how to use, frequency to levitate large blocks. And in his front yard, he took these massive stones, and he had shaped them just like the Egyptians did into blocks. But he was 70-something years old, and he built this whole infrastructure around his front yard, like a fence, and then going up, and then there's an arc, and then the wall going past, and nobody saw him do it. He was doing it when he was trying to do it to where no one could see him, but he did this. But then he also transitioned, passed on, and he didn't leave any writing around. He didn't leave anything for anyone. He was trying to stay low key because he knew that, just like what happens to people now, you put this kind of stuff out there, and your invention could shut down, multi-trillion-dollar corporations and businesses. So they didn't, and he didn't want to become unalived because of that. So he just did his own thing, and he built all of this. And these are things that are way too heavy for a human to lift. Any human, not just him at 70-something years old. Any human. It's too heavy to lift. It's not quite as big as the ones being built at the pyramids, but it was extremely dense and large. And I can't remember if it was granite it was made out of or not. But yeah, he did it. And then he didn't leave anything behind, so I guess he did his thing and proved a point and left on his own terms, which I commend him for that.
Now, even our scientists know that the planetary magnetic fields have a whole lot to do with memory and with the function of human consciousness. They don't exactly know why yet, but the why is because consciousness is connected to the DNA template, and the DNA template is made of scalar wave patterns, which are electromagnetic wave patterns. So if there is a large magnetic disruption in the planetary fields, you can do amazing things to the DNA of life forms on that planet. The reason we have no memory right now is because of something that was done in Atlantis. And the reason it is very important that we begin to try to very quickly grasp as much of ourselves as we can, even if we don't know we have our avatar levels of self. If we can begin with believing that we do, that's how you find them. You're not going to be able to integrate your higher parts of self unless you realize they're there. But right now, we have about 2 years, not even really, we have to the end of 2002 to reach a certain level of fixing planetary grids, that if it is not accomplished, there's going to be something called Plan B put in motion. Now, when I talk about Plan A and Plan B, Plan A was the founders' plan of what they would do when the stellar activation cycle came. They had a set of things they wanted to do to get the planetary grids fixed so this place would not go into pole shift. Plan B happens when Plan A doesn't work. Plan B would be evacuations. I've never, ever been the doom and gloom type person. And I told the Iani when I was working with them the last couple of years, say, don't start talking to me about pole shift because I don't want to hear it. You have all sorts of people out there in the New Age movement, saying all sorts of horrible things are going to happen. If it's that bad, we can't do anything about it. I don't want to know, and I certainly don't want to teach it. And they said, all right, well, actually, it's not that bad. We've focused on solutions all along. We've had to very quickly move through helping people to understand Cathara healing, so they'd understand their body systems, tangible structure of the soul, so they'd understand how those body systems plug into their spiritual consciousness systems, and then very quickly go into planetary grid mechanics, so we could begin to work with the planetary grids to create healing. And a lot has been done already. We've made great accomplishments. But at this point, our accomplishments have been done so well in healing the planetary grids that the agendas of the fallen angelic races, agendas they've held literally since the Atlantean period, when they were just going to saunter in here and just take over the place very easily. They were going to actually come in and introduce themselves with names like Moses and say, hi, we created you. We're your space brothers, and just show us how to run our planet better. And there was an objective at the end of it. They don't want humans. They don't even want surface Earth. Earth is a strategic location for something called the Halls of Amente Stargates. Earth has portals that lead directly into the Halls of Amente Stargates. The Halls of Amente Stargates are a universal stargate system that literally extends into all of the primary stargates in our 15-dimensional time matrix. That's what they're after. Earth is the most vulnerable link in the chain of galaxies that have connection to the Halls of Mente Stargates. So what they had in mind for us, way back in Atlantis when they set this plan, was make us stupid, erase our memories, give us some false books and things, take the old books and just insert stuff and take out the good stuff, have us like little sheep by the time they were ready to come in, then set a series of events in motion that would make them able to come in very easily with no resistance. Now, one of the ways to do that would be, first of all, to have people believing in an externalized God that's outside of themselves, that has a certain name and a certain face. All right, you already got an image to use when you come in to say hi that people will be receptive to. Part of the plan, and this is called the Illuminati Master Plan, the One World Order Master Plan, was to set up, about 100 years before, subtle contact. That's when the channeling movement started. Subtle contact with their races. Their races, meaning the hybrid races, who don't have human souls incarnate in them, but who have either Anunnaki or Draconian souls incarnate in them. The interesting thing is, we've all been taught, since our memory was erased, that we're only one race. We have bodies that are very similar, and because of what's been done to the DNA, right now our DNA appears to be the same, because certain portions of the DNA are repressed in both races, so the similarities show that the differences don't. About 100 years ago, the channeling movement actually got its seeds planted, because it was time. That's when the Anunnaki started to connect with some of their hybrids. Their hybrids don't know they're hybrids. They don't. They think they're just human like anybody else. They don't know what human is either. The hybrid people are not bad people. It's not that they're bad fallen angelic people. They're just people who lost their memory too. And the reason they lost their memory is they were trying to rebel against and get away from the fallen angelic collectives in Atlantis. That was part of the reason. They had their hybrids. They were saying, well, we're starting to grow and understand that the ways you're doing things and dominion and killing other life forms and things, that's wrong. We don't want to be part of your collective anymore. They were going into what was called the Emerald Covenant Christos contract. And that meant that the fallen angelics' hold on the planet was getting less and less. If they lost their hybrid races, they would have a very hard time coming in directly, because most of them can't live physically on this planet because of their own biologies.
What do you guys think about that? I know that our genetics were messed up. Science proves that. Science can look at, when you look at the Bible and then you see the part where God says, this is around the Tower of Babel, where he talks about, I'll scatter races and languages of the world, and I will also shorten your years to 120, so nobody's living past 120 years anymore. And that you can see that all throughout history. But not only that, you can physically see our telomeres within our DNA. And I made a video talking about telomeres and Rh negative. Excuse me, but science can physically see that ours had been cut down to this point that we're at. You can physically see that it's been cut down. It used to be longer. There's a cut there. You can tell. So that makes a lot of sense. I don't believe that we're all different races. We're different races to an extent, but the part of us, the part of our DNA, I think it's like 4% that makes up, your skin color, your hair color, your eye color, the texture of your hair, these little things that are very unimportant compared to the other 96% of your genome. But who knows? I could be wrong, but that's what I believe, and that's what I've learned throughout my research. But let me know in the comments if you've researched any of this, if you have any kind of feedback for this. I would love to converse about it, in case I am overlooking something that I might not be aware of. But that's just the conclusion that I've come to. I know there's tons of races of species out there. I don't believe that any of us are different species of races, like the Neanderthals, the Denisovans, they all made it together. That's why, 5% of the population today still has Neanderthal DNA. And I think 8%, has Denisovan DNA in Australasia. It's the former word for Australia. But yeah. There's no sound to this, and I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that I personally have a bunch of these leaves, and I get them whole, and they're completely alive. You can see the oils in them, but you could also get the concentrated kind that comes in a bottle. I have both, and I have a friend that has gone through cancer twice, and so I ended up giving her my leaves and showed her how to use them, and her doctor was shocked that her cancer cells were just gone after within a few months of taking the soursop leaf tea. You can also take it at a concentrated dose. I haven't tried it on everything else, and let me preface this as a disclaimer: I'm not a doctor, so I'm telling you my experience. So yeah, we did this, and I was like, hey, you know, the worst thing that can happen is, you know, it doesn't work, and then you have to do your normal tearing up your body with radiation. But why not give this a try? And it killed him. And you can even see under a microscope how it actually just destroys cancerous cells. The same way, if you were to look up, if you were to put a drop of blood under a microscope and then introduce cytotoxic venom to it from a snake, there's only, I think, 2 snakes that actually have cytotoxins. You have neurotoxins and another toxin. Either way, so if you were to introduce snake venom to your blood, what you would see was the actual red blood cells explode when snake venom hits it. That's why snake venom can be so bad. And one of my snakes was a gaboon viper. It's from Africa. It has the largest fangs in the world of 2.5 inches. And it's the only snake in the world where there is no snake venom, no snake venom antidote for it, because it's one of the few snakes that has 3 types of venoms. So you have neurotoxic, cytotoxic, and what's the other one? I can't think of it. Sorry, can't think of it right now. But it's got 3 types of venoms. And so you've got the one that tears down your blood, one tears down your respiratory system, and then one that paralyzes you. So, yeah, but this stuff works. I would definitely suggest getting some of this just in case, to be prepared. I still keep some. I give it away for free. You have to find somewhere that will actually ship this to you and give you the correct stuff and ship it to you to where it's alive, not dead at all. And, you know, I've got some places like that, but yeah, I give this stuff out for free when I hear about it. When I hear any of my friends or loved ones, or their loved ones are going through something like this, I just give it to them. You know, it's not it's not like it's breaking me. It doesn't cost $20,000 to buy this, you know, so I willingly give it away for free. I just did that a few months ago. A friend of mine from India, because, you know, they've got a population crisis over there and they can't afford medicine, so, you know, I gave him the bottle of concentrate that I had and showed him how to introduce it to their system. And because why not? Why not try, you know, the natural stuff that has been known to work? Why not try that first? You know, there's no bad side effects at all. So why not? You know, if that doesn't work and you can't find anything else, then yeah, go tear your body up with radiation. But try this first. You know, try the lesser of, you know, remedies, the lesser damage on your system type remedies. Try the lesser one first.
This is the real truth about the Bermuda Triangle. All of the theories you have been told are wrong. There is no curse, or aliens, or sea monster there that is taking down ships and planes. All these theories have been created purposefully to mislead you. The truth is that the Bermuda Triangle is where all the rockets land that fail to break the firmament. The government has been trying to break the firmament for a while, hence Operation Fishbowl, where they sent nukes up into the atmosphere. We can't leave Earth because of this dome, which is why all the pictures of Earth are CGI. When rockets are shot up into the air, they all curve across the firmament and land in the Bermuda Triangle. The government deliberately created these myths about the triangle to keep people from traveling there and discovering the hundreds of rockets that are supposed to be in space. And if anyone does try to travel there, the military will engage and stop you threatening to attack. This is all just a conspiracy theory, but the evidence is very convincing.
So I hope you guys realized that that was Joe Rogan's AI voice. That wasn't Joe Rogan talking. That's an AI voice. People go to the Bermuda Triangle to perform tests all the time. I don't know what this is talking. This is the kind of misinformation that I'm talking about. So yeah, there's been, oh God, a multitude of books written about the Bermuda Triangle. You know, and one of the most common scenarios is it's a beautiful, bright, sunny day, no clouds, and then all of a sudden it gets darker, and then clouds start to form around the plane, and then it forms a tunnel that's actually spinning like a spiral. There's electricity going through in that tunnel, and their instruments stop working, so they just have to use their sight. This is from the planes from a while back. And yeah, so people have gone through the Bermuda Triangle many, many times with these twin engine airplanes, you know, to test this out, to see what's going on. And, you know, yeah, it's one of those places in the world where weird stuff happens, you know, where the veil between this world and the next is thinner. There's a lot of places like that on our planet. But we know those places because of ley lines, you know, ley lines that map our entire planet, and then they intercept at these ley lines. These are those power points. And this is kind of what they were talking about with these portals, you know. These portals are the same thing, and they're mapped everywhere. I don't know why people are like coming up. Like, I see people studying magnetism and torsion fields, and it's like people are looking at them like, oh, you're a genius. No, we already knew this. We've known this. Magnetism goes to the right, electricity goes to the left. So you've got your magnetosphere, you know, going around like that over the planet, and then your electrical part going up. You know, we've already known that. This torsion fields are not a new thing, but it's like people are just now figuring out what they are, or just now learning about them. This has been out there for a long time. It's nothing new at all. But then people are like, oh, that's so true. Yeah. Been true for, you know, long time, very long time. This is nothing new. One of the things that I'm going to get into in one of my next videos is I want to really look at, you know, the giant species, and I did this in one of my former videos, but I want to dig back into it because it's a point of contention with me, and I want to show these things like these giant doors. I've shown the giant cars, you know, if you see one of my other videos, the giant cars, the giant doors, the giant axe, you know, and the fact that, you know, mountains are, you know, tree trunks, or some of them are actually just giants that were frozen, you know, in an instant for whatever catastrophic event happened in that moment, you know. But these are things that I plan to show on my next one. This was supposed to come out Friday, but you know, my software kept messing up and going to portrait mode to 9:16, so I'm having to redo it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I really hope you do. Do me a favor, smash that like, subscribe, and that notification bell so you can get notified when I release a new episode. And also, we need to run the numbers up on the algorithm to get this out there, this kind of information out there. You know, I see some people doing this content, but they don't know what they're talking about, and that's fine. You know, you can learn together. But my thing is, I want you guys to do your research. I do my research, but I want you guys to do your own research to come to your own conclusions. Then I might have overlooked something. You can bring that to the table and we can discuss and we can all learn from each other. But, you know, I think they're trying to shadow ban me. You know, that's what I've been told by a few people. So if you have any info on that, just let me know. But please smash that like, smash that subscribe. Let's run the numbers up because we're all in this together. You know, the whole point of putting this information out there is for us to not only understand who we are, what we are, why we are, but how to protect our families. What are we protecting our families from? Protecting our loved ones. You know, what kind of things can help our bodies, you know, without having to go to big pharma. You know, what should we stay away from? What should we go towards? You know, these are things that are important, you know, and I think it's worth talking about. And I think it's worth showing. And also, if I see misinformation or something that I personally have experience with that I see as a lie, I'm going to call it out, you know? And so that's just my perspective on it. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.